Father, I'm doing a special edition today, and I'll tell you why. I want to take a little time to really kind of just get the picture of what's going on in our church and how we can better help Holy Mother, the church, get back in her lane, if you know what I mean by that. We seem to be going way off.
I do.
And a couple things that hit me. I was with Bishop Strickland yesterday for an hour, and we were talking a little bit about when the nuncio came, called him in and read a list of things off a piece of paper that the Holy See was concerned about, and that really, whether it was the Tridentine Mass issue, whether it was his administration issues. Here's the interesting thought. Bishop Strickland asked for a copy of that letter. And you know what?
How did that go?
That's funny. No, they wouldn't give him a copy. Now, Father, this is unbelievable, in my opinion, that you were going to accuse somebody and then fire them and not give them any paper trail to say that this is why you're being fired. I mean, I heard that they did that in Russia, where they would call you in and read off a list of things and then you're done and there's no recourse. Well, it seems to me, and maybe I'm over exaggerating it, but it seems that Bishop Joseph Strickland, who's no longer the Bishop of Tyler, Texas, who's now doing his work on the internet, and he's got his new YouTube channel, and he's going to preach the gospel. But it seems that just objectively as a layman, I don't know from your perspective as a priest, that kind of scares me that our church is kind of relating to that kind of approach to firing people without just anything other than, come here, get in here, here's what the problem is, you're done. And it goes totally against canon law. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, the only difference, there's a major difference here between Stalinist tactics and the tactics that the Vatican is using this last decade.
Yeah.
And they are this. Joe Stalin, Uncle Joe, they used to call him Uncle Joe. Can you believe this?
Unbelievable.
Right? Not to kind of sugarcoat the millions of people he killed. Joe Stalin, when he had a problem with somebody, he would send, listen to this is documented, he would send 2 soldiers out, 2 of his men of confidence, to that man's house during dinner.
Wow.
While his family was seated having dinner, they would show up at the house, knock on the door, tell him, just tell him that he was going to be executed for treason, and shoot him right at the door of his own house.
Wow.
Now, but you know what they did the next day? This is incredible. The next day they went back, they returned to get the money from the widow for the bullets used to kill her husband.
Oh, that's a shock. That can't be made up.
Oh, no, I'm not making this up. They would go back so that the widow would pay for the cost of having executed her husband. She had to pay for the bullets, and if not, she was taken to jail.
Wow.
Now, we're not at that point yet.
Right.
But we are at the point, I think, where you can see there's pettiness.
Yeah.
There's pettiness in this. And Terry, I would have to be, you'd have to persuade me strongly to the contrary of what I'm going to say. The reason they didn't give him a copy,
the
charges, there aren't any charges.
Yeah.
And there certainly aren't any charges that they would put down on paper.
Yeah.
Because they're petty, they're their own. Therefore, that's all. They wouldn't give a copy. I can see that. I
get it. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, you talk about pettiness with Cardinal Burke, but before I do that, it seems to me, as a layman look at the church, I see the Holy See going after anybody who really believes in the Apostles' Creed, who's really traditional in the Catholic faith. There's an Argentinian bishop close to Archbishop Aguilar who will be getting a fraternal visit from the Vatican. Now, this is what happened. I love the way you described that. Fraternal visit. Give me a break, Father Charles. So here's my point.
From Uncle Jorge.
Yeah, it appears that anybody who says things like, I believe in the deposit of faith, I'm a traditional Catholic, you're under suspect from the Holy See. And it seems to me that most bishops, because I asked Bishop Strickland this question, I said, what would you tell bishops who are concerned about speaking the truth of the gospel, but knowing that they might have to be removed as the bishop of their diocese or just be penalized? He said this, and I really chuckled. He goes, Terry, life is short. Eternity is forever. He says,
Yes.
we need more guys to come up and say, no, this is what the church teaches, and you're wrong. And I said, well, why don't you be a little bit more clear about it, Bishop Strickland? I laughed, But would you agree with his approach that we can't be fearful? He said too many of his brother bishops are scared that what's going to happen to them is what happened to Bishop Strickland if they speak up. Am I onto something?
Oh no, of course. But that's not just particularly true of our bishops.
Yeah.
And that's true of anyone, even in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Anybody who's achieved a place, which is a nice place to be, they belong to the country club, they've got the lake house, everything is nice, then they're not going to go out on a limb to say what's right.
Yeah.
Or to call in somebody else's, call in somebody else and ask him or her to improve the way they're thinking. No. It's the status quo.
Yeah,
you stick with that. This is human nature.
Yeah, it is.
Look, Terry, I'll tell you this too. Cardinal O'Connor, John O'Connor,
New York,
called all the priests of New York. I think he was a saint. I love this man.
Yeah,
called all the priests in New York to a meeting in St. Patrick's Cathedral. Said we were talking. It was the beginning of the clerical abuse scandal, right?
Sure.
And he went on. He said, "Here, I have the statistics from that are available. There are just as many cases of this sexual abuse by lawyers, by doctors. School teachers were way off the charts.
Yeah,
but public school teachers especially, they were incredibly high." He said, "This is the scandal." And I'll never forget it. He said, "This is the scandal. We aren't any better."
Great point.
The scandal is that we aren't any better than all of those groups.
Yeah, we
must be, we should be, we must be, because we have Jesus Christ and the gospel and are trying to live lives of sanctifying grace. We have to be better.
Yep.
Well, this is what the problem is. I just got done saying you find the same problem in the corporate world. You find the same problems in politics. Yeah. People don't want to, I'm fine right here. Don't bother me. I'm okay. Yes, in all of those things that are worldly, that's right. But we should not have them at the same rate in the church. And unfortunately, we do.
Well, let me give you a story. Maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but I don't think our listeners would know this about Cardinal O'Connor. Back years ago, I sent a gentleman from our St. Joseph Communications to record a priest retreat put on by Cardinal O'Connor for the Diocese of New York. And he was telling the men that they have to be fearless when it comes to preaching the gospel. And he gave an example, and everybody remembers Cardinal Bernardine from Chicago and his seamless garment, which was trying to say that all these issues, abortion, immigration, are all equal, which he was wrong. So what happened was he called Cardinal O'Connor and said, Cardinal O'Connor, I expect you to go along with this seamless garment because I'm going to be coming out with this and it's going to get all the newspapers and they're going to probably call you. I need you to back me on this. And Cardinal O'Connor said, Joe, there's no way I'm going to back you on that because you're wrong. Now, remember, I'm recording this priest retreat and then Cardinal O'Connor comes back after he made all these statements the same. He just told me, he said, I'm not going to. So the media did call him and he said, no, that's not Catholic teaching. Now, I found out later that the good cardinal said, hey, would you guys remind, I would prefer that not to be recorded and put on the radio. Can you just keep that private? And all these years, I still have that recording. I've never published it. But I tell you what, I've got his voice saying to what he told his priest, you must never compromise, gentlemen. So I just find that to be remarkable. And you just said it, he was a saint. Well, because saints do that kind of thing. They don't look and put their finger up in the wind and say, which way is the wind blowing? They speak the truth. Did I ever?
He was also a man of action.
Did you know
he
that?
Said something.
Yeah, did you know that story, Father?
I did not know that, but I'll tell you something. I did not. It's the first time I'm hearing it, but it doesn't surprise me in the least because that's the kind of man he was.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd say that. I thought you'd say that. Father, I want to, before we get to first break coming up in another minute, I want people to pick up more of your books and give us an update on if there's anything you're working on that.
Oh, Terry, I've got to tell you. I've got to tell you. Wait a minute. The murder in the 33rd degree.
Yes.
It just came out in Italian.
Good.
And in the first week, sold out. It's now going into second edition, which is great.
I remember when you first wrote the book. It wasn't that long ago. And
that's right.
We said this is. And I remember reading their manuscript before it was published and going, "Wow, this is gonna rock a lot of people." Father, I hope you're in a good place because you're gonna make a lot of people unhappy because you're exposing things that they prefer.
Oh, Terry, I'm fine where I am right now.
Excellent.
I can see for miles all around, and there's a machine gun in the Eagles nest.
Stay with us, family. You're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show with Father Charles Murr. I'm going to talk more with him when we come back after a quick break. Stay with us, family.